guys, welcome back to my channel Freezotech. In today's tutorial we'll continue with our Python series. We'll be going over variables in Python. So what is a variable? In every programming language there are these things known as variables. Variables, you can think of them like variables as a namespaces. You can think of them like names are located, named locations used to store data in the memory. It is helpful to think of variables as a container that holds data which can be changed later on in a program. So these are just named locations used to store data within our memory. You can think of the computer's memory like a hotel, whereby in that hotel there are different rooms. So variables are the names given to each room, so that each room can be uniquely identified and data or people from that room can be accessed. So that is what a variable is, and this is no difference to Python. This is also what a variable is in Python. So let's move on to how to declare variables in Python. To declare variables in Python is very straightforward. In the previous tutorial we talked about identifiers in Python. If you didn't watch that tutorial, a card will appear on top of the screen. Just click that to watch the previous tutorial on identifiers. So to declare variables in Python, we simply start with the variable name, which is the identifier, and this identifier or variable name follow all the rules that we discussed in the previous tutorial on how to name identifiers. So that is the process of giving the identifier name or the variable name is known as variable declaration. After variable declaration, what follows is the assignment operators, which is the equal sign, and then the data type, which is the value that you're going to assign. So to declare variable follows two main stages. There is declaration of the variable, which is giving it an identifier name, and then assigning, which is giving value to that the variable. So declaration of variable creates a place in the memory, and the assigning of the value will take that value and store it within that memory, and we will use the variable name to uniquely identify that memory space and we'll be able to pull that assigned value out later on using that variable name. So what are data types? We know about identifiers, which are just variable names. So what are data types? We didn't discuss that, so let's move on to what are data types in Python. Data types in Python, these are basically the types of data that we can assign to a variable name. So there are basically 5 main data types in Python. The first one is numbers. Numbers include integers or float point numbers. Strings, these are just basically text which are enclosed in quotation, opening quotation and closing quotation marks. Lists, this is just if you're coming from other programming languages, maybe Java or C++, lists are arrays. So in Python they are called lists instead of arrays. So these are just like a data type that consists of 2 square brackets with other data types stored within it. So there can be numbers within lists, strings within lists, and so on. So let's move on to dictionary. Dictionary, these are key value pairs relationship. So just key, double quotes, colon, and then value. We don't need to worry about lists and dictionaries for now. We'll discuss them later on in the series. So let's move on to Boolean. Boolean is basically a true or a false data type in Python. So the main data types that we're going to focus on now are going to be numbers, strings, and Boolean. Lists and dictionaries, they are more complex, and we'll talk about them in separate videos later on, but just keep them in mind and be aware that there are mostly 5 main data types in Python. So let's put what we have talked about into practice. So Here I have opened my Visual Studio Code. So let's go over how to declare a variable in Python. So we'll start with the numbers data type. So to declare a variable, we start with the variable name or the identifier. So just because I'm saying salary, okay, salary, and then the assignment operator, which is equal sign, and then the data type. So salary, we're going to just use numbers like this. So salary is the okay, some numbers. So now you can see that it's really difficult to read the amount of numbers here. So a trick in Python to do is just 1 2 3 and then space 1 2 3 and then underscore, not space, sorry. So this is similar to the way you write things in normal ways, like if you're writing numbers, if you're writing numbers like in terms of human way, this is how you write them. So in programming, if you do this, Python will throw at you an error. So to avoid an error, we simply use an underscore to represent the commas. Okay, this makes your code more readable. So here we can see the salary is 100 million. So we can also have age, this is the identifier, the assignment operator, and the value. Let's say take 10 years. We can also have weight, so 10. Okay, you can also have weight, maybe 60 kilograms. Okay, so these are number data types. So all of these, they are known as numeric literals in Python. So these are numeric literals in Python. So let's move on to strings. So strings, we can say maybe name. Strings, we say that they are just text, normal text that are enclosing, opening and closing quotes. So you can say James. So this is the identifier, the assignment operator, and then the value, which is James. So this is a string literal. We can also do we can say city. Maybe the city is Dar es Salaam. Okay, so this is a string literal. So all these are string literals. These are numeric literals, these are string literals, and all of them follow the same way of declaring them. So let's move on to Boolean data types. So we can Boolean data types, the declaration is the same. We start with the assignment operator. Let's say this is adult. So this can say false, or we can say true. So this is a Boolean data type. This is basically a true or a false. So this is a Boolean literal in Python. Okay, Boolean literals, string literals, and numeric literals. So these are the data types. This is the assignment operator, and then this is the identifier or the variable name. So this is how you work with variables in Python. So why should we use variables in Python? Why variables? So I'm just going to use the print statement, which is just to print something on the screen. So we are going to print the memory address of is adult on the terminal. So if I run this, I'm going to get the memory address of his adult. So the memory address is the name that the computer understands, like what the computer uses to not identify this within the memory. So this memory address changes every time the computer goes through a new cycle. Every time the CPU goes through a new cycle, a new memory address is located to each variable within our program. So if you run this again, we will get a new memory address. You can see that it was different from the previous one. So every time we run this, we'll get a new memory address. Every time we run this, the computer goes through a new cycle. Variables and memory places are assigned new memory addresses. So we can keep track of this as humans. So what we do, we use variable names to locate them instead of using these memory addresses, because these memory addresses change every time the computer goes through a new cycle. If you can do an experiment and try it on your own, computer, and you notice that the memory address changes every time the computer goes through a new cycle. So to identify these memory addresses and be able to pull the data out that you have stored there, we need to use variable names. Okay, you can think, I know this is a bit difficult to understand, but you can think of it like the memory of a computer is a large hotel. In this hotel there are different rooms, whereby each room represents a memory space, and that within that room there is a person. So let's say there is one man in that hotel named John Smith. So you want to find John Smith, but every time in that hotel, in some weird way, the room numbers change every time. So in previously, you know that Mr. John Smith was in room number 10, and then suddenly you go into room number 10 and you find he's not there. It has changed to room 206. So to uniquely identify Mr. John, we need to use his name. We're gonna ask everyone in that hotel, who is Mr. John Smith? So that is, you can think of variables names like that. So every time we'll be able to get Mr. John Smith despite of the room number changing. So you can think of variables as that way. So thanks for watching. In the next section we are going to deal with type conversions in Python. Like this is a number, right? This is a number, this is a number. So how do we change this to get a string? Because any number that is even if I take this and I enclose it in strings in double quotes, I can know this is no longer a number, it is now a string because it's enclosed in double quotes. So the next session we're going to learn how to change from this to get a number or to get other different data types. So see you there. So guys, welcome back to this section. In this section we're going to be talking about type conversions in Python. So in the last tutorial we talked about the data types within Python. So we ended up here saying, well, how can we change this to get a number back? So to know which data type is your variable, you can do this by saying type and then parentheses, and then you say in here a variable name. So if I run this, we can know that this variable is a string. This data type is a string, so it is a string literal. So if I run this, I want to get the type of string. This is going to return to me type str, class str. Str in Python stands for string. The first three letters of a string, str, that is string. So if I try to find the data type of the variable name age, I'm going to get int. Now int in Python starts from integer. The first three letters start for integer. If I put this maybe 10.9, if I run this, 10.9 is going to be a float because it's a decimal. Decimals in programming, they're known as floats. So that is how you can check the data type. Now this is a string. So let's say that I want to change from a string to a number. So I want to change this to get a number, to remove this quotes around it. So to do this, I'm going to, okay, by the way, I forgot to tell you something. In Python you can use double quotes or single quotes for strings. Both of them will work, but I just prefer to use double quotes. That is just preference. So if you like single quotes, you can use them. If you can use double quotes. So to change to convert from one data type to the other, you just type in the initials of that data type. So I want to convert salary into an integer, so I will say the int, and then here I'll pass in salary. So this salary now, it is an, if I print type of salary, let me comment this out. If I print now salary, the data type of salary is returned to me str, which is a string. So now that salary is a string. Now I want to change salary from string into an integer. So I'm supposed to come in here and say int, and then int, and then that. So we are going to convert salary into int, and then you're going to print this type out. So this will return to us So if I run this right now, we got type of int. So let me run this again. So now we can see now the data type has changed to be an integer. So we have, using this, we have converted salary into an integer, and then we have printed it out. So this is how you can do data conversions in Python. So let's say that we want to convert age into a string. So in here we pass in str. Str is used to convert any data type into an integer, except with the exception of lists and dictionaries. So if I run this, I'm going to get data type to be int, str, despite the fact that here it was a string, an integer. So if I print this here, so you can see what I actually mean. I can print type, and then I want to print type of age. Type, okay, type. So if I save and run this, I'm going to get, so the type of age is float here, so it printed for us float, and then it moved on, the program moved on and changed age to str, and so now the type is now str. So that's how you do data conversions in Python. In the next section, we are going to learn how to take user inputs. So the assignment that I want to leave you is to work with this, to practice more and more and become familiar with data conversions in Python. So in the next section, we will deal with taking user inputs. So see you there. Welcome back to this section. We are going to be in this section. We'll be going over the taking user inputs in Python. So let's jump to it. So I'll open up my text editor. I have created a new file named as inputs.py. So let's go over how to take user inputs in Python. So to take user inputs in Python is very simple. You just say input, and then here you can say in the prompts that you want to tell the user, like tell the user something. You say maybe tell me your age. Okay, so tell me your age is going to ask the user for his or her age. Now this is going to return to us whatever the user has typed in, so we need to store this in a variable. So we'll say age. So this is how to create variable declarations. If you didn't if you didn't watch that, we have covered it in the previous section, so check it out. So we are storing whatever value that input is going to return to us. We are storing it in age. So to see what you are doing, so let's just print out age. So I'll run this. So I'll run this in the terminal. It's asking me for my age, so maybe I'll say I am 12 years old, 15 years old. It has printed 15, so it got the value which I typed in 15 and then printed it out here. So what happened is that whatever I typed in gets stored in age. So if I print age, it's actually printing what is stored inside of age. Okay, so whatever I have typed in here is saved into age, and we get print out age. So now let's check which kind of data type that we are getting, the data type that we are getting from this. So to check that, we just say type. So we print the type of the data type of the data that we are getting. So let me just run this. Age, I'll type in 15. If I run this, I'm getting data type of str, which is string. Okay, so in Python by default, all inputs that you get from the user are are string data types. So to change, maybe we want to work with age. So to work with age, age is usually numbers in human way or integers. So we can just change this into int. That we're taking it to an integer. So let's just check again the type. after changing into an integer. So if I run save and then run this code, I'll get, so I'll type in my age, maybe I'm 45. I type in, I get the type of the data. It is now an integer. So it was previously a string, we changed into an integer, and then we checked out its type. So in Python, just be aware that by default all user inputs are by default strings. So anything get from the user is by default string. So now there's another better way of doing this. Instead of writing that in another line, you can simply pass it in here to make your code more readable. So we get the data, we get the value from the user, we change it into an integer, and then we store it in age. So now if I print the type of age, I will get an int type. So let me run this. You can see, so I am maybe 55. I can see everything int. So we have done the same thing but in a more readable manner. So this is how you work with taking user inputs in Python. So let's just take, maybe then tell me your name. So print out. So now we want a person's name. A person's name is not a number, right? It's just a string. So let's just remove this. So by default we say that it will be a string. So by default it is a string data type. So we can just print here. We can print here hello, and then plus let's change this to name. So change this to name. So we are getting the value and then we are storing it in name, and then we are going to print out hello and then the name of that the user gave us. Okay, so if I run this, it's going to ask me for tell me your name. I will say maybe my name is James. So if I run this, it's saying hello James. So it's printing hello and then James. So it's adding hello and then James. Okay, so that's how you work with taking user inputs in Python. So I'll give you a little bit of assignment. Create a program in Python that asks a user for the year in which they were born, and then return to them their age. So try to work on this and then pause the video, work on it, and then I'll show you my solution. So just pause the video right now. Okay, now let's move on to my solution. So I'll have a variable age, which will take the user's age. So we'll take that age, we'll convert into an integer, and then we'll store it in age. Okay, so we're getting the user input, converting it to an integer, and we're storing it in age. Now to calculate your age, you take the current year, which is 2020, right? The time of making this video. Yeah, so we'll take in 2020, which is the time of making this video. So what we'll do, we'll take the current year minus the age of that person. This will return to us, I mean minus the year. Sorry, this is not age, this will be year underscore the year in which they were born. Okay, so year, so this is year born. Okay, this is the year born. So we take the current age, which is this one, minus the year in which the person was born. This return to us the person's age. So let's do that. So we'll say print. Let's just make it add to it a bit of, okay, no, let's keep it simple. So we'll take current year minus year underscore born. Okay, so we'll take the current year minus the year in which that person was born. This will return to us the person's age. You must have noticed that I have changed this into an integer, because if I don't change this into an integer and I remove this, you can subtract. This is going to throw at us an error. You can subtract minus a string from a number. It's like minusing a sentence from a number. It's not possible, so this will draw us as an error. So let me say this. So you see we get an error. It says that type error, unsupported operand types for minus, int, and str. So you get minus a string and an integer. So that's why I've changed this into an integer so that we can work with numbers. You can minus a number from another number. So I save this and then I run it. You can see, okay, okay, the year, okay, maybe 2010. So my age is 10 years old, so it takes 2020 minus 2010, which is 10 years old. So this is how you create the program. Okay, so now to maybe to make it more really nice, you can say your age is, and then okay, say end. End is basically telling Python not to print this on a new line, because if I remove this end, I delete this end, you're going to get this on one line and this on the other line. So let me just run it. We can see, okay, 2010, we can see your age is colon and then another new line 10. So to make this, to avoid this, we use the end. So if I save this and I run it now, all of them will be on the same line. So 2010. So if I run it, your age is 10. So this is how you can make it more really nice. So this tutorial we have learned how to take user inputs, convert into other data types, and be able to create different programs. So go out there, explore. Maybe you can create a program that can take in distance in meters and convert it to kilometers. So I leave this up to you, or you can take someone's weight in kilograms and convert into maybe pounds or other things like that. So just try to work with that, or you can easily even create a basic calculator. We take in the first number, the second number, and then we will build calculator in the future. So thanks for watching. So keep practicing. If this video is helpful to you, please like and subscribe to this channel and share this video with anyone who you think might want to know such things. So thanks for watching. Any question you have, please leave it in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer you. So thanks for watching.